is up, beautiful people? It's your girl Cam, and I am back with another video. Today I'm coming at you with my March book reviews, and I'm also going to let you take a look at my March reading tracker in my reading journal. So if you want to see how I tracked all of my books for this month, and if you want to hear about the books I've read and what I thought about them, then just stay right there. Okay, so this month I read 7 books, and I've read 1 graphic novel, 1 very short novella that I listened to on Audible, 1 nonfiction book for children. It's a children's chapter book, and then I read 3 traditional novels. I think one of them was a YA novel. So, as I usually do, I'm going to give you my books in order from my least favorite to my favorite. And I just want to tell you that I just left my book club meetup dinner. We met up at a vegan restaurant in Noda. There were 4 of us at this book meetup, and we had a great time. And we were discussing my favorite book for the month. So we'll get to that in a few. So let's start with my 7th favorite book for the month, my number 7. And again, none of these books were bad. I just have to put them in order. Okay, so coming in at number 7 is My Dear Friend Janet by Keke Palmer. And this book was a comedy by Keke Palmer, and I think the total Audible time was about 30 minutes, so it was very short. But it's a comedy about this plain Jane who gets a massive makeover in her physical appearance and also in her confidence level. So it was a comedy, and on the Audible website, the story is actually narrated by Keke Palmer. And you know, she has a great voice, and she played all of the characters in the Audible story. So it was really well done. It was not my favorite book of the month though. So I did give this one 4 stars on Goodreads. And I mean, if you're looking for a cute little comedy read, this is a good one. This is a good one for a cute little comedy read. Okay, so that was number 7, My Dear Friend Janet by Keke Palmer. And coming in at number 6 is Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad. This is a children's chapter book about Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad and her life growing up, and also her rise to become a conductor on the Underground Railroad. This is a very good book for children to learn more about Harriet Tubman. The illustrations were good. I did give this book 4 stars on Goodreads. That's Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad. Coming in at number 5 is The Lost Girls of Ireland. Now this is a book that I read on my Kindle, and it was part of my Kindle Unlimited subscription. And this month I was on a mission to read more diverse books about people from different countries and different cultures. And so this book was about a mother and daughter who live in Ireland, and they went through some very trying circumstances that caused them to move from a very lush and a very wealthy lifestyle to a more conservative, should I say, lifestyle. And I don't want to give any spoilers because the backstory is very important to how they ended up in this little small town in a cottage in Ireland. I think it was Kerry, Ireland. The book was good. It just wasn't very exciting. So that's why I put it at number 5, because it just wasn't very exciting to me. But I did learn a lot about Ireland, and I could kind of picture the setting. I did go online and look at some of the places that they mentioned in the book, which is always exciting and interesting to me to do that. The story was decently written, but it just was not a page turner for me. I think the mom and daughter had a good relationship with each other, and the other characters in the story were interesting. But I just did not think that the story was like exciting enough for me to give it more than number 5 on my list. But again, that was The Lost Girls of Ireland. I did read that on my Kindle, and that was my number 5 book for this month, The Lost Girls of Ireland. And coming in at number 4 is Black Women in Science by Kimberly Brown Pelham, PhD. That describes lots of real historic figures who have been instrumental in the science industry, from astronomy to biology to etymology, all types of science fields. These women have been pioneers and trailblazers in their field of industry, and this really is a very good book. The illustrations were very good, and this was written by Kimberly Brown Pelham, PhD. And it's a very good book for children who are interested in science, or if you just want to give your children some insight into the recent inventions and technology expansions in the Black community made by Black trailblazers. This is a very good book for your children to read, or for you to read. I learned a lot from this book while I was reading it. So it's very, very informative, and I gave this one 4 stars on Goodreads. This is Black Women in Science by Kimberly Brown Pelham, PhD. Alright, coming in at number 3 is Wash Day Diaries. This is a really adorable graphic novel about 4 friends who live in New York, and they all go through some different situations. Some of them have to do with relationships with family, boyfriends, girlfriends, all of these kinds of different and various relationships. And this graphic novel was written by Jamila Rouser and Robin Smith, and the illustrations were amazing in this book. And I was surprised that so many real life circumstances were addressed in this graphic novel. Although it is a cartoon, like a comic book, it's not for kids. It is not for kids. There's one particular scene in here that is very adult, if you know what I mean. So this is not for your children. And I don't know where it said that on this book. This is definitely for young adults. Yeah, I would just say it like that. But 2 of the issues that were addressed in this graphic novel that I thought were very interesting was mental health and dementia in two different situations. One of the characters is going through some mental health challenges, and another character is dealing with a grandparent who has dementia. So I thought that was very interesting to address those issues in a graphic novel. I love the bond of these friends. I love the fact that they stick together no matter what, that they stand up for each other. There's not a lot of dialogue in this book, so I kind of feel weird saying that I read so many pages because many of the pages were illustrations, but the illustrations told a story. So you're still grasping the path and the plot of the story by observing the illustration. So just keep that in mind as well. I did give this 4 stars on Goodreads, and this is Wash Day Diaries by Jamila Rouser and Robin Smith, a graphic novel. Okay, coming in at number 2 for me, I did read this book on Kindle, and I also listened to the last few chapters of it on Audible. This one is Tokyo Ever After, and I will put a picture of the book here. And let me say, this book started off to me kind of slow, but by the time the young lady actually goes to visit Tokyo, Japan, the story really takes off. Anyway, the book really takes off for me. I loved the culture that was displayed and described. I loved the dynamics of the imperial family with this young Japanese girl who was born and raised in the United States, but her father is a part of the imperial family in Japan. It was a whole live scandalous situation. And I love the action and the dynamics of the family. I love the descriptions of the food and the wardrobes and the customs, the traditions. It was really a good story. To me, it picked up once they got to Japan. And one of the things that really just drew me all the way in were the poems that two of the characters wrote to each other in Japan. It was like mesmerizing. I'm a sucker for poetry. So when the two characters were writing poems to each other, I was all in. So I thought this book was really good. It is a YA novel, and I struggled in how to categorize it in my journal because there is part of the story that is a romance, but the overall story is not a romance. It is a story about a young Japanese girl discovering who she is and making a connection with her heritage and her family and her lineage. It's so much more than a love story. You know, there are two people that, actually more than two people, a couple of people fall in love with each other in this novel, but it's about family and culture and connection and tradition. So I did not want to categorize it or simplify it by saying it was a romance, because it's way more than that. So I did categorize it as a novel, and I did give this 4 stars on Goodreads, and I read it on my Kindle and listened to the last maybe 10 chapters on Audible. I'm enjoying going back and forth like that, especially when I'm wrapping up with a book, to just listen to it in the car while I'm driving, listening to it while I am doing chores around the house. It's just a great way to continue consuming and embracing books that way, through Audible, Kindle, real physical books. I'm enjoying all of them right now. So that was Tokyo Ever After, and I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. And coming in at number 1 is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Oh yes. This was my number 1 book by a long shot for this month. When I tell you this book is full of so many twists, turns, shocking surprises. I mean, I literally dropped the book, had to put the book down because I was so shocked about 4 times in this book. Like, I think this writer is phenomenal. I've heard some negatives about her writing. I think her writing is phenomenal. She kept me in suspense up until the very last chapter. Even at the last chapter, there's still a question where you're like, well, what happened? Well, what did she do? I mean, she keeps you on the edge of your seat. I thought that the character Evelyn Hugo was larger than life. She was complex. She was multidimensional. She was someone that you could really believe is a real character. And the lies that Hollywood told in this book, the lies. And you know, it made me think about the lies and the cover-ups that are currently going on in Hollywood right now, or that have been going on for years with different celebrities that we know about. And we hear rumors and we hear rumblings about them, and then all of a sudden those stories go away and you never hear about them again. It's like they are just pointing our attention in the direction that they want us to go in. And they're like gaslighting us, and they're putting up this facade that they want us to believe, but there's really something else going on behind the scenes. That's really what this book, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, is all about. To me, that's the big overarching theme, the lies that Hollywood tells. And then this character, Evelyn Hugo, was just created in a Hollywood studio. She was created in a Hollywood studio, and she just ran with this narrative of who she is, ran with it to become successful. But the twists and turns and shocking surprises. Now, is this book for everyone? No. But I thought the book was a great ride. there is some suspense, like a question that you're asking yourself while you're reading this book that is not revealed until near the very end of the book. And it's shocking. Every single person who was a part of the book club, there were five of us who read this book together. One person couldn't come to the book club meetup, but everybody who read it was shocked by the reveal. Like, nobody guessed the reveal. It was so well crafted. So well crafted. So I gave this book 5 stars. And I am thinking that I'm going to be doling out 5 stars a little bit less frequently. I think I give people not really sympathy stars, but I'm going to be more careful with how I dole out 5 stars, because every book does not deserve 5 stars. I think this one does. It's a very, very good read. It's a page turner. There's so many themes that are covered in this book. I don't want to go into all of them because I don't want to spoil anything for you if you're going to read this book. But I enjoyed reading this book thoroughly. I enjoyed discussing it with my book club group tonight at the restaurant. We had a great time. I do highly recommend that you read it if you are open. If you're open to reading surprising novels. Let's put it like that. If you're open for surprises, I recommend that you read this book. Okay, this was my number 1, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I gave this 5 stars on Goodreads. And that's it, y'all. Those are my book reviews for the month. Now, I would love to show you an overhead shot of my reading journal and how everything came together. So if you want to see that, just stay right there. Okay, so in my reading journal for this month, I created a rainbow theme. That was the whole theme for this month. So I did write down when I started my books and when I finished them. I need to add the last week here that I read Tokyo Ever After. I need to add that in here. But that's what I read this week. I actually read 2 books. I read Tokyo Ever After and Black Women in Science this last week right here. So I need to add that. But here is how my books read list turned out. So we've got Evelyn Hugo, Lost Girls of Ireland, Wash Day Diaries, Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad, Tokyo Ever After, Black Women in Science, and My Dear Friend Janet. And next is my page where I tracked all of my reading for the month, my exact number of pages here. And for March 1st through the 6th, there was no reading going on. I was in DC for Go Wild, and I thought I was going to be able to read, but there was just no time. We were busy, and anytime I had some downtime, I wanted to get something to eat or get some sleep. So I did not read anything while I was in DC. I did take my tablet, but it just did not get any use. I did take my tablet, but it did not get any use on the plane or any other time. I just did not read. But I did get a lot of reading done this month outside of Go Wild. I just had one other day on the 12th when I did not read. I can't remember what happened on the 12th, but something happened on the 12th and I wasn't able to read anything. All right, and then here is how I marked my chapters. I did mark the Evelyn Hugo book by 5s. I think I mentioned that in my April setup, that I put 5s in each of these boxes because there were 69 chapters in The 7 Husbands of Evelyn. Yeah, there were 69 chapters, and I didn't want to take up one box for each chapter. That would take up almost this whole page, or probably half of this whole page, and I didn't want to dedicate half of this page to one book. So I used 5s for each of these boxes. So 5, 10, 15, 20, etc., all the way up to 65, and then I just went to 69 after that. So here's how I documented my chapters as I read them. And then here are my stats for the month. I bought 9 books, read a total of 7. Total pages read was 1,373, and my average star rating for the month was 4.4. So that turned out really good. Here are my quotes for the month. And I hesitate to read these because sometimes there's spoilers involved. So I'm not going to read these. And then here are my reviews. I created a book review page for The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And I also created book review pages for Tokyo Ever After. And I'm not going to, this is a little flip up part here. This opens up into a little interactive little pocket, but I'm not going to read it to you because it's got some spoilers in there as well. But I did create an envelope here because there were poems, as I mentioned in my book review. There were poems that 2 characters were writing to each other. So I made a little envelope out of some scrapbook paper, and I created a little book to keep some of the poems in that they wrote to each other. So we've got some of the poems, and they're like, I think they're called waka poems, and they're kind of like haiku. So I wrote some of the poems in here, and then I slipped them in this little pocket to keep them when I want to read them, because they're just that good. They're that good. So I have the purple iris here to represent Izumi, who is the main character in Tokyo Ever After. Part of the tradition in Japan is, for the imperial family, is to dedicate a flower to them when they are born. And she did not get to experience that because she was not born in Japan. She was born in California. So when she went to visit her father in Japan, he dedicated the purple iris to her, which I thought was super beautiful. And so I got a picture of a purple iris from Google, and then I added it here on the side of her envelope with the poetry in there. So that was my spread for Tokyo Ever After. And then here is my spread for Wash Day Diaries. And I want to write one more thing in here about friendship at the bottom, but I can't quite figure out what I want to say. So when I think of what I want to say there about the bonds of friendship, I'm going to write it here, probably in one of my mildliners. But I'm just having trouble summing up their friendship because they had a very, very strong bond in their friendship. So I want to document that some way with just one sentence. But that's going to do it for my book reviews and my stats for the month. I think everything turned out great. I've already got things set up for the month of April. Hopefully you caught this video. If you did not, I will link it up here in the card so you can check out me putting this spread together for the month of April. The theme is books, and I am so excited to continue reading in the month of April. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, I hope that you will take a moment and hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to click the notification bell as well, so you'll be notified every time I post new content right here for you. I hope that you are enjoying some good books. I hope you're going to enjoy some more good books in April, and I hope that your month is full of love, joy, and most of all, peace. See you next time.